World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
This is World News in 5 here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. In a historic first for the Catholic Church, Cardinal Robert Prevost of the United States has been elected Pope, taking the name Leo XIV. White smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel Thursday, signaling the conclave of 133 cardinal electors had reached a decision. Just over an hour later, the 69-year-old Chicago native appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica and greeted a jubilant crowd with the words, "Peace be with you all." Leo XIV is the first American Pope in the Church's 2,000-year history and succeeds Pope Francis, who died last month after a 12-year papacy marked by reform and outreach. Prevost spent much of his career in Peru as a missionary and bishop, earning a reputation for humility and social justice. He was elevated to cardinal only in 2023 but quickly rose to prominence as head of the Vatican office that helps select bishops worldwide. His election surprised many, though insiders say his alignment with Pope Francis' vision, particularly inclusiveness and global outreach, made him a unifying figure. The crowd in St. Peter's Square erupted as French Cardinal Dominique Momberti announced the traditional Habemus Papam, or "We have a Pope." Pope Leo now leads the world's 1.4 billion Catholics at a time of global uncertainty and internal debate, tasked with balancing tradition and reform as the Church enters a new chapter. In other news, U.S. President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer have announced what they are calling a breakthrough trade deal. Speaking from the Oval Office Thursday, Trump said the agreement opens up a tremendous market for the U.S., while Prime Minister Starmer hailed it as a fantastic historic day. Under the deal, Britain will slash tariffs on U.S. goods from 5.1% to 1.8%, while the U.S. maintains a 10% baseline tariff on UK imports. Key sectors to benefit include aerospace, auto, and agriculture. U.S. tariffs on British steel and ethanol will drop to zero, and British car makers like Jaguar and Aston Martin will gain access to a 10 or 100,000 vehicle lower tariff export quota. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the UK is expected to purchase $10 billion worth of Boeing aircraft, while the US opens duty-free access to Rolls-Royce jet engines and more British beef. The announcement comes as the UK tries to rebuild its global trade profile post-Brexit, and as Trump's tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico remain in place. More news overseas. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin have pledged to strengthen their alliance and jointly counter what they call U.S. unilateralism and bullying. Meeting in Moscow on Thursday, the two leaders declared themselves friends of steel, vowing to deepen ties across military, economic, and political fronts. The summit coincides with the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, an event of major national significance for Russia. In a lengthy joint statement, Xi and Putin accused Washington of trying to contain both countries and pledged to reshape a global order they say is too dominated by the United States. Putin thanked Xi for attending the anniversary, using the moment to reinforce his claim that the war in Ukraine is part of a part of broader fight against neo-Nazism, an assertion dismissed by Ukraine and its Western allies. Xi, who is battling a trade war with the US, and said China and Russia must eliminate external interference and reinforce their strategic partnership. The show of unity gives Putin a diplomatic boost as he faces increasing Western pressure to end the war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, a brief unilateral ceasefire announced by Russia on Thursday appeared to collapse, and almost immediately, with both sides accusing each other of violations. that concludes today's edition of World News in 5. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, I am Peñano. Good day.
World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.